Welcome back to the Captains Quadrant, section 31 and a half, as we have questions. I'm Joe Dove, the co-host of this fray. With me, as always, is Jason Roy Gaston, my co-host for all things section 31 and Captains Quadrant. And boy, do we have a treat for you and a treat for us. Dan Liu, the infamous director of so many of your favorite Star Trek episodes and much more. We're going to get into all of that. Dan, welcome to the Captains Quadrant.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you have the luxury of being in a nice, beautiful climate right now. There's no rain, there's no flooding. You don't have to worry about losing stuff. So I'm assuming that you're enjoying this lovely day over in.
It's a good sunny, clear day over here. Perfect. I feel for you guys. My in-laws are in Brooklyn, so.
Oh, there you go. Well, I definitely would check in on them. Brooklyn got hit pretty hard. Hopefully they're still there and they still have their cars. All right, well, we're going to kick it off. You're a visionary director and we really admire your work. So, yeah, absolutely. My question to you is, what was your initial reaction when you were invited to direct Strange New Worlds? And how did you prepare to step onto the bridge of the Enterprise?
Well, how I got on was I had an interview with our producing director, Chris Fisher, and it just seemed like, we got along really well in the interview, and he liked my work. I recently did, right before Strange New Worlds, a 2 episodes of this Netflix series called Shadow and Bone. So it was also a VFX heavy, lots of extras, lots of sets. And so he invited me to do an episode. And then, when you first get something, it doesn't hit you till weeks later. You're like, oh, I'm part of the franchise that was on TV that my mom would watch when I was small. That would be there every Saturday, I think, on UPN. And it was just wild that this history that you're a part of. I mean, I was part of the franchise called The Walking Dead in my first real LA job. So I know some of the pressures that being a part of a big franchise can have. But at the same time, it's just really exciting. I mean, you get to finally work on something like this. And then when you show up on set and we're during the prep and I'm just looking at all the sets I get to use, then you step on the bridge and you're just oh, I mean, I think Anson Mount always said it feels very special, just walking into his bridge and sitting on the captain's chair. And I think that goes the same with every one of our crews. Because even when the camera's not rolling and nothing's the actors aren't there yet, you do see some of the crew just enjoying the bridge, especially the ones that are a little bit more hardcore fans. And it's really just lovely to see that there's so many people that this franchise means a lot to, even among just, people who work there every day.
Yeah. And how many times did you sit in the captain's chair?
Well, I mean, every time we're there, we shoot on the bridge 3 to 4 times, 3 to 4 days per episode, at least the ones I've done. And yeah, you just get in there and so you look around, there's nowhere to really sit where I'm standing near the captain's chair and I just take a seat. And then, then you get out when the actual captain comes. But,
yeah. Oh man, that's awesome.
Well, I want you to know you said something that I kind of took personal, and that was, I remember watching this franchise with my mom, and then you mentioned UPN. And it just reminded me of how old I am. I watched this with my dad, and that was the original series a long time ago. So, yeah.
I know you that old.
Enough of my own insecurities here. So, walk us through your approach to directing your episode. What were you inspired by any of your previous work? I mean, obviously, yeah, but just kind of walk us through your thought process as you approach this episode.
Specifically the season 3 one, right?
Yes.
So when they told me that I was going to be getting a zombie episode, my initial reaction is, I thought I left that life behind me. But actually, then I think with every project, you open it up and you instantly, just as a professional, I have to fall in love with it. Otherwise, how can I portray that to others? Mm-hmm. So I read the script and every little thing I can get excited about. And as I'm reading it, I'm just oh, this is exciting. It's taking this friendship between Babs and Anson, Mbenga and Pike, that we haven't really seen them, be buddy on screen for a long period of time. And this really gets that, plus his worry about Batel. So first I'm looking at it from kind of the character perspective, then I'm looking at it from like a production perspective. Oh, these are a lot of like zombie set pieces. Oh, cool, a phaser battle, like all these little things that get me excited. And then I start planning it out in my head. So for me, when I read a script, I naturally see kind of like frames of pictures, and I'll try to hold on to those frames in my head during my second read through. And I would try to like, okay, these frames in my head got me really excited about these scenes. So how can we keep that and eventually realize it on screen? And then around this time is when they fly me over. So I'm on a plane, reading the script one more time, and getting ready for day one. And day one of prep is where you start having your big concept meeting, and you get every single person on board with what's in your head, and they'll tell you what they have already prepared, because it is a whole team of people, and they've already said, oh, we've scouted these locations, these are like your assets that we want to play with. What do you think? Is there anything you want to change? Is there like all these little things? So it was really exciting really getting into this space of like dark corridors, dark rooms, but adding a lot of plants and an overgrown like Terra, because that's the story of Camphori. Is like it's a very kind of like overgrown. All these people that used to be there are essentially undead plant moving things.
Yeah.
The spores like proliferated growth everywhere. And what's interesting is this particular episode, we got assigned pre-strike. There was a writers and actors strike in 2023. So I was originally supposed to shoot like right before the summer. And what they all planned for was for me to shoot in some great outdoor locations in Toronto that we would do art and production design to make it look like an alien planet. Well, the strike happens and it throws everyone's schedule completely off. And I come back in the dead of winter. There is no growth anywhere.
Oh.
So the plan had to shift. And what that meant was our greens department, set dressing, and production design teams went massively overboard to figure out how we can do this when nothing was really living. And so we got this old chicken factory, and it was like really creepy because they used to kill chicken there. You would see like old pockets of dried blood against like the factory walls. So
half the makeup's done
already. And then they get about, because I show up there and we prepare for about 2 weeks. So they have about 2 weeks to like change the whole place into what you saw on screen. And adding a lot of the techie shelves and boxes, and like where we all work very much hand in hand on like the levels of how to do that. And we work with our DP on what's like lighting the dark corners so that there are some lights, because otherwise it'll just be black. And so we spent 3 days in the chicken factory, and then the actual forest path they discovered the Klingon body at, that had to be done in a studio. So they brought in like evergreens from wherever they could, and then they created some alien looking flowers as well that can be featured. And it was just like this little path in a studio that they walked on and we had to shoot. So I had to think of those logistics. And then because of the knife fight and all the zombie fighting, it became a really heavy stunt episode. So as soon as I got there, I'm very fortunate that I've trained in wushu for 18 years. So I'm familiar with like the stunt community, and I worked a lot with the stunt team in Shadow and Bone and some of my other projects. So it was like day one, I went to my stunt coordinator Neil, and we went to the stunt studio, and he brought his guys. He had like 3 guys there, showing me like potential choreography, and we were just working out the knife fight. As soon as I showed up to the office. And then it was about bringing our actors on board to get rehearsals, and they have to practice that because that's not something you can do on the day. It was a lot of like preparing. You have, in TV, you get the same amount of days to prepare as you do to shoot. So it's just, once you read the script and you're excited about it, then it's just full steam ahead and just work.
Wow. Now, were Klingon zombies a lot more fun than the Walking Dead zombies? Because like the
I mean, because I think it's very smart they did the more virus slash fungus zombies, because with phasers, slow moving hordes is no problem,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
you have to feel like, oh, even taking the time to shoot a phaser blast at one and then the other, like you won't have enough time to fight them off, which is, our first zombie reveal. That's essentially what happened. Like the Klingon looked over and he had to hold another zombie away at bay, but then 5 others came at him and people were
yeah,
shooting, but then we had others coming from the dark recesses, and it was just like there was too many and they were like, we have to go.
yeah.
So I think that's like it's fine in that way, where it's just setting the stakes a lot higher, but also because of their technology, they have to, otherwise it wouldn't be as fun an episode.
Right. Very true. Very true. Jace.
So, you mentioned that you grew up enjoying Star Trek with your mother. How did those early memories shape your approach to the Star Trek universe today? Because I'm assuming it was Voyager or Enterprise.
It was Next
Compl-
Generation, actually.
okay, Next Generation.
Okay.
I feel better now. I feel
Yeah, me
better.
too.
Okay.
I was like, oh my god, I'm that much older.
Okay. So the Next Generation and Strange New Worlds, to me, are completely different animals. One of them is television, and the other one is cinematic. So do you find yourself still referring back to the old series whenever you approach directing an episode like this?
I think when it comes to, we'll have a lot of things, because we even watch the original series often because we have a lot of Easter eggs from it, or even the art department will be like, oh, did you know, like this part we're planning to like reference this episode. So then I'm like, as soon as I get home, I'm watching that episode, like really like seeing exactly what they're talking about and how it came together. So I think we get a lot of inspiration from all the treks across the different series. And for me, the common thread is it's about optimism, right? It's like, how has, when humanity has, after it overcame World War III, how, and they have now the technology to have everything they need, like what is there to do now? How everyone sort of goes to explore and better humanity as a whole. And I think it's just like a beautiful message across all the Star Treks, that there's this optimistic sci-fi worldview.
Very true. Very true. Um, so I saw there's a picture on IMDb where you're wearing a mask. What were protocols with COVID like when you were shooting? And did it impact a lot of the shooting? Did like somebody get COVID and you had to like delay, or was there any like big
Yeah,
issues?
I mean, it was a huge deal because
Mm,
obviously when we first started, there wasn't the vaccines yet. So, everyone was pretty scared that, I joined the Strange New World season one. We started the second year of COVID,
mhm.
but I started working in LA at the tail end of the first year of COVID, on other shows. And it was just, it was a crazy time because, like, with the protocols, if someone got COVID, then they needed to see who they were close in contact with. And even with masks, the risk of just, them taking it off for a breather, or like eating a meal or something outside, it could transmit pretty quickly. And
Yeah.
so they made it so whoever had COVID in the first year, it was 14 days, you can't come back. Then it was like 10 days for the second year. And yeah, you just really hoped you didn't do anything crazy and put yourself at risk, because otherwise you can't come to set to work. And then every indoor scene, if you're not an actor, you had to have a mask over you at all times, which was also challenging because as a director,
You gotta
as
yell
soon
at
as,
people all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
as soon as actors finish, like when you yell cut, a lot of times people look over to you to see like your reaction, or like your approval, or what was interesting about it. And when you have a mask on, you learn to do a lot of like,
Hand gestures. Yay!
yeah, and it is tough because it is like so much of, I think, finding moments on set is about like the like personal collaboration between people, and having that mask there was a barrier in that aspect, but you still have to do it. So you learn how to do it in other ways, or I make myself a little more animated. Sometimes I would like jump around more, and I don't have to when there's no mask there.
Yeah. All right, Jace.
All right. So here's a challenge for you. What is, in your entire career, Star Trek, Walking Dead, whatever, what is the most technically challenging scene you have ever directed, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Most technically challenging. I mean, it's funny because I feel like every episode of television, you learn a little bit more, you learn something new. So what was technically challenging for me when I first started on Walking Dead, it was my first episode I ever directed was this CG tiger, Shiva, that was Ezekiel's tiger, and I had to kill him because it was time.
That was you.
I had to kill him myself.
So it was like, congratulations on your directorial debut. Now go kill a tiger.
Yeah.
Go kill this beloved character. The fans will love it.
The year after that was my first outside of the main series. The spinoff hired me, and they're like, "Hey, your first time working with the spinoff, time to kill Frank Delane, the actor who plays the son."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And like, all these moments I remember distinctly of like trying to make them impactful and make them cinematic. And with the son, I was like, well, we really want to like see his reactions as he's falling down from getting shot. And I remember the grip team trying to make that happen. And them at my DP court, they built this like body rig that Frank would wear, and the camera was attached to it. So he could actually move his arms, and there'd be these like metal pipes coming out from him holding the camera. And then they would put pads between the pipe and him so he can fall on his side without the metal like cutting into him. So I thought that was like extremely like cool and like on the spot, like these riggers doing their thing. And at that time I thought that was so technical. And then I got to Shadow and Bone, and I'm working with 230 extras in Russian costumes with like a giant side of the field that's completely in green screens on forklifts. And I'm explaining to the actors like what the fold looks like and where these things are coming from, the monsters, and what they're listening to and all this. So yeah, I think like every project just brings new and interesting technical things. Now, I think personally, I remember For All Mankind the most when I joined in season 3, because that was on Mars, and people had to be in these big like burdensome suits, and they had to like run on Mars. And the Martian dust that we simulate is not great. It's like this red sand that just gets everywhere. So that with the moving crane and just like the lighting and the green screen, that was probably one of the more difficult technical shoots. But at the same time, we did it. And like looking at it on screen, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I got to be a part of that.
Yeah. I know you did season 3 of Picard, which is the highlight of every Star Trek TNG fan. Myself, Jason, and our other buddy Jason in Australia, all the way in Australia. This is global.
Nice.
Tears might have been shed.
Yeah, there might have been some tears.
Maybe.
I might have stayed in front of Times Square to see the ship come through. And anyway, TNG is known for their antics. So a lot of the actors, goof around and just kind of have a good time together because they've been friends for so long. Did you experience any of their shenanigans? Was there a lot?
I mean, to Jonathan Frakes' credit, he warned us every single day before they all got together. Like he'd be like, this day is coming up when like a lot of us are going to be in the same place at the same time, and when we're together, it happens. And so I think you're just mentally like prepared. And then when it does happen, you're like, okay, they haven't seen each other for so long. They're telling these fun stories. I want to let them finish, but we have to keep shooting. And so, I definitely experienced that. And sometimes for me, it's a fine balance between like, sometimes I have to give, like with Jonathan, since I've seen him in previous like scenes already before everyone came in, I could like feel like I could give him a little shit and he'd laugh at it and like play around and then get to work. So, it's fun, but at the same time, you're just like, oh no, I gotta work.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to meet your like childhood idols too, and hang out
Well,
with
I
them
mean, the
and
whole reason
tell
I
them what to do. That's kind of
the whole reason I took the job was Sir Patrick Stewart, right? So like, it was after Strange New Worlds Memento Mori episode. I turned in my episode, and then I got the call asking if I wanted to work on Picard, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like Sir Patrick Stewart, of course."
yeah.
And when I show up there, and it's there, it's the final season, and I got this pivotal block with Ro Laren like coming in, and it was actually, I think like when you're working, you don't think about it. But oftentimes when I'm on the drive up to set, I'm just like kicking myself like, oh, I'm gonna be like talking to some of these like actors I grew up with, especially like such lauded performance actors like Patrick, and getting to talk to them. And my favorite moment has to be like on that show, we just did it was a small intimate scene with him and his son, Ed Spieler. In Shosun, and they just did this like they did this like a heart to heart scene, and it wasn't that big, but it was a bit of like emotion and drama. So as we were like working through it, and then at the end of our coverage of Patrick, I'm like, uh, so Patrick, how did that feel? And then he looked at me and he's like, that felt real, and I'm just like, okay, bucket list checked off, because it was just
Nice.
a good collaboration with like one of the like greats of acting.
Yeah. So I mean, sir, he gets knighted for a reason, and it's not because he was in a war. So not a real war, anyway.
The man fought the Borg, Joe. Come on.
Yeah.
Get knighted for that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So something I've always been interested in, as a director, and this is coming from a place of complete ignorance, so please feel free to school me here. How much input do you get on the musical score and the sound effects? Is that something that is determined ahead of time, or do you continue to direct in that direction? That's a bad sentence, boy.
I think like what's interesting in our time period is streaming and cable has really blurred the lines between, it's made movies a lot closer to television. Because before if you did a movie, then sound effects, VFX, music, you're like, as a director, you're in there all the way. Like that is, you're working so closely with all the head of departments, getting that all the way to the end. Alt television, and even more recent television, like the director goes and they get to submit their cut, which will have a lot of those, but you don't really get time to work with the composer. You'll temp in like inspiration tracks that sound like what you want, but obviously they can't use it because they're going to use their composer, or they don't want to license a track. And then same with sound effects, like you and the editor and assistant editor, you guys work to like whatever your capacity is to what you think it should be. And then when the real team gets in there, like the sound team, they'll probably, either use it as a guide or just throw it out the window and do it completely different. So that's like most television director involvement. But now as we get, a little bit more mixed media, I feel like we get a little more say. Also, Nami, our composer, is brilliant. She'll just like, if you ask for something, she'll come up with like a simple version of it that you can even put in your cut. We did that recently in season 4, and I was just like, this is great. She just got this tune to me overnight. So,
that quick?
Yeah. And then obviously, because in television, the showrunners are the boss, like you turn in the best cut you can do. You get 2 chances to turn in a cut. And then they have that for 11 months, essentially, or 10 months, depending on how long the release window is for some of these sci-fi shows. Because visual effects to get the cinematic level of visual effects that we're used to now from these franchises, like it takes 10 months, 9 to 10 months per episode. I mean, they're all working at the same time, but that's why you don't see an episode come out like 3 weeks after we shoot, like the old network television, because back then they wouldn't need these fancy visual effects. Like it was kind of just expected that the VFX were not the quality of movies, they were the quality of TV. And so now with these expectations, they have your cut for 10 months. It's going to change. Sometimes a showrunner will probably wake up one day and is like, oh, let's like try changing this whole thing into something else. And as a director for that medium, you have to just let go and be okay with it. And hopefully they keep a lot of it. I can confidently say probably why I got Picard was on Memento Mori. They kept 95% of my cut. Like they tweaked things here and there, but essentially it was what I turned in, and I was so thrilled because that doesn't always happen. And yeah, and that's just the name of the game.
Perfect. Speaking of Memento Mori, it's a great episode. It
Thanks.
really dives into La'an's trauma and the like shadow Gorn threat that the Federation is facing, more so the Enterprise and La'an. How did you approach directing such an emotionally intense episode?
Well, I think I've always been into directing drama and characters. So, me and Chrissy, she reached out first. So she was just like, let's get into it. And, we broke it down and we talked details about it. And she like had a lot of ideas, but also a lot of questions. So, and for me, I know like capturing all of those feelings on screen is very important, as well as what's the bigger picture of the submarine battle. So because they told me right away the concept of it, I basically all the submarine movies starting from like the 40s or something, any notable submarine movies, just to like really get my mindset in that claustrophobic space of like stuck with a malfunctioning radar, and like what do you do? How do you keep the tension up? So that was kind of how I prepped for it, and then it was just doing it. I think once I had that prep in hand, I just got to work as I usually do, and just tried to do the best version of the script on screen.
Wow, Jace.
So how do you collaborate with actors to bring out these nuanced performances that we see on screen? Because I'm kind of thinking back to some of the episodes that you've directed, and you seem to really have a talent for that.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I have to say, when I first started directing on Walking Dead, and especially after my first Fear the Walking Dead, I noticed when you could really tell when an actor is not comfortable or if they aren't giving the best performance. And back then, I did theater in high school, and like I thought I knew some stuff about theater, but I realized I couldn't quite convey everything to put their mind at ease to give the best performance. So I went to do some acting classes, especially this directing the actors class, with this teacher who teaches at USC, but he teaches a separate class, and his name is Brad Barnes. And it really kind of unlocked something in me, I think, just to doing his classes. And then I went back to Walking Dead for my third episode after that class, and I was able to basically, when an actor got upset at my writer, I pulled him aside, gave him some notes, and then he just walked away and was like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "Okay." And then he did it like, as scripted, with like full like emotion and intention. And I was just like, "This is crazy. It works."
Nice.
But yeah, no, for me, a lot of it is, it's a collaboration. So you have to, see what they bring to the table, let them try it, and then give specific and concise notes to try new things. Because the worst thing that can happen, I think, is if an actor feels like their time is wasted, right? So you need to make it feel like you're all working towards something, but at the same time, you don't really want to keep doing the same thing, because then when you get to the edit room, you don't have options. So I think it's about exploration of options while working towards a greater goal.
Perfect. Jace?
So you mentioned drawing from submarine movies like The Hunt for Red October and Das Boot. How do those influences manifest in the episodes of Star Trek that you directed?
Well, I really take inspiration from sometimes how a camera moves in a certain environment. And for, a lot of the submarine movies, especially, I think The Hunt for Red October really took camera swings to a new level when it comes to, finding panels and faces and to other faces. And you just kind of like analyze what's going on in the foreground, the background, where are they moving to, what's causing the tension of the move, and like, is the move meaningful? Because otherwise, why do it? So I think I bring from that. I took a lot of that into Star Trek. Plus, watching right before I watched the season 2 fully, of course, before Strange New World season 1, because that was directly tying in.
Mhm.
And they did some crazy like camera moves that worked really well. And so I just had to like really look at it and it's like, what is working about this? What can I do in my version to make it like this or different? It's just taking inspiration from everything that came before.
You okay?
Yeah.
There's a little cough of
Mhm.
change of the weather. So you said you kind of looked at Discovery when it beforehand to jump into Strange New Worlds. Was there any like did they allow you to go on set on Discovery? Is there any like
No, they shot already, so it's
it was
not.
already done? Like even
I mean, I think season 2 was out and they were starting to shoot season 3.
right.
But their studio is in a completely different place in Canada. So,
Oh
I mean, in Toronto.
yeah. Oh wow. So you have to go from beautiful one side of the planet all the way to the other and go in the Arctic tundra. Oh, that must have been a challenge on its own. One thing I noticed and I'm grateful for is you're very engaged on social media. Like, how do you deal with passionate communities like the Trek fandom? Because
I
I
mean,
know more than myself have been like, hey man, you did this. This is amazing. I know you probably get bogged a lot. How do
I
you
think
handle
I'm just like grateful that there is a fan community. I remember, it was Walking Dead season 4 when I went to the Comic-Con there because I cut the trailer for the season.
it?
So they had me go to Hall H to watch everyone's reactions. And I think I was just so amazed, like, at the passion of like the cosplay community for Walking Dead. Because I had, when I started on season 2.
Mhm.
I knew the comics were a thing, but I didn't know how much of a thing it was. And just like with Star Trek, like it's a thing until like you really meet the fan community and you're like, wow, it's a thing. And I think like it's it helps, and it puts a little more pressure on us to try to do our best work because it's like, you're not doing it just for yourself, you're doing it for the history of this franchise that's affected so many people. And I remember taking a tour at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Labs,
I was going
and
to ask
all
you
the
that.
scientists watched Star Trek growing up. And I'm like,
Oh,
that's crazy. And it's just like, these are the people that have the rover on Mars. These are the people that have like, ships going off to explore uncharted moons. Like they all grew up watching Star Trek.
wow. That's cool. I didn't know the level of depth that went into doing Star Trek is the same people that are actually doing this. That's
I know it's
yeah.
so wild. And like when they were such a fan. I remember, me and the producing director for Strange New Worlds, we brought the writers onto that same tour, and it was like just so fun seeing because the writers, of course, being inspired by science, they loved seeing all of that, and then all the scientists they love meeting the writers. So it was just like this is so much fun and so much love all around.
Yeah, bringing to community. I mean, yeah, I guess like the diagram that those two circles would overlap, like scientists and Star Trek and everything. So that makes a lot of sense. Jace.
So, hypothetical question: if you could direct a crossover episode with another Trek series or sci-fi universe, what would your dream mashup be?
Wow. With a sci-fi universe, I mean, it's simple for me, kind of like I work on For All Mankind. So I'm like, well, For All Mankind really should like do a one episode set way in the future after World War III, and then we find some of their descendants like working on the warp drive. Why not?
There, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Working in Georgia and doing The Walking Dead, is it more challenging? Like, because you're in like very different tempered climates,
It
whether or
is
not you're on a set, but a lot of it's outside, if I'm not mistaken, for
Most of it
Walking
is
Dead.
outside. It
Yeah.
is never felt my skin burn so much as on Walking Dead.
Wow.
Like, some of the scenes when you see them, oh, they're in a parking lot or there's a shootout like outside a building. Yeah, the sun and the humidity, with us bouncing off the asphalt like onto you is intense. You know, it's some of the most intense like being outdoors experience I've had, even like traveling to other countries. Like Georgia has a special level of sun intensity. Plus, there's a lot of bugs. So the first thing they told me was like, if when you go on the scout in the forest, you gotta like spray up like bug spray. And I'm like, well, what happens if you don't? And then my AD pulled up his shirt and showed me all these micro, like this red like rash across his waist. He was like, those are chiggers. You can't really see them, but you walk in the bush, and if you don't have bug spray on, you're gonna get this. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So you have the fear of getting like breakout rashes from these like microscopic little flea type bugs.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you what a chigger was. Like, what?
Oh,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean
you don't
they're
know what a
basically
chigger
like
is.
they're not as
Ooh.
bad as ticks,
Uh-huh.
where they won't stay in your skin, but they'll give you like a lot of bites. And
Ooh.
then we have a snake wrangler, so there's going to be like uh,
Oh
big
my
snakes
gosh.
in there. So yeah, and then Georgia has thunderstorms all the time. So suddenly you're huddled in a van waiting for the thunder to pass because you can't shoot in a thunderstorm. So it's a challenging environment, but I think like I mentioned to you that Walking Dead feels almost like an indie production in how they embrace the like old style of Romero zombies and even the
Mhm.
filmmaking parts of it. And we shot on 16 millimeter film.
Oh,
So, a lot of it just felt like you were there and you were like braving the elements, doing like this old school style filmmaking. So I think it was like cool to do that, but it wasn't easy.
wow. Now, as a director for some of the two of the biggest TV genres known to mankind, Walking Dead and Star Trek, I don't know if you're familiar with all the collectibles that come with the with both genres. I actually have a Walking Dead statue that somebody made for me in
Oh, nice.
another spot. Do you actually end up collecting anything? Where is there any like set items that you got to take home, or you wanted to
Not
take home but
so
couldn't?
much. I mean, sometimes I want to, but because of my position, I want to play it kind of cool. I'm just like, oh no, it's okay.
Uh,
I'm like, no, I could have that. But like, I remember when I first started working in the editing offices of Walking Dead, uh, we shared the space with the writers' room. So Robert Kirkman had his office like right around my alcove. He had a room, and one day he just had these boxes. He's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have some like figurines, and these are like, they sent us a whole bunch of the early release." And he just like put the boxes in the middle of the floor for anyone to take. And like, we got like all the Michonnes and Daryls and Ricks, and everyone's just like, "Oh, this is fun." But then like no one was really taking them except like a few of us. So I had like 3 of the figurines, and it's fun. It's cool. Like I like all the swag, but at the same time, now I have a 7 and 3-year-old. I'm not exactly gonna bring like a bloody zombie figurine.
Daddy, what's this? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's some daddy. It's all good. It's all good. Jace.
Uh, so, you've helmed hard science fiction drama. You've done fantasy, post-apocalyptic horror, and procedurals. What remains constant for you as a director across all those different genres?
The human struggle. Yeah. I think like it's most interesting watching people struggle and overcome or accept what's coming to them, because that's really why I watch television. I don't know about anyone else, but it's super fascinating to me, just like how people deal with that and internally and outwardly. And a good example for I love the recent Dune movies because like you know, Denis, if you watch them like analytically, he loves his close-ups more than a lot of movie directors. And in those close-ups, you can really see like Timothy's like journey as his character progresses, as well as the close-ups of everyone around him, especially in Dune 2 when he becomes this Messiah. And like people are like, oh my God, they either like are crazy for him or they're like, what are you doing? Like, who are you?
Mm.
And seeing that mixed with the backdrop and cinematic like scope, I think is something that not a lot of directors can do. And he's one of my heroes, so I aim to like him and Ridley Scott. Those are like, if I can ever do things like at the level of Denis and Ridley, I'd be like, oh well, thank goodness, because that's like life dreams right there.
Yeah, check another box. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, did you when you worked on this last one, the Shuttle to Confori, you had this really interesting backstory with the old general's daughter.
Yeah.
And yeah, which was really great storytelling. Like you had this like layered theme here. Yeah, we got to go to this planet. Yeah, there's these zombies there that are like mushroom people. But then we got these Klingons that are also hunting us. There's a scene where she gets this whip. It's like a steel whip.
Well, yeah, it unfolds essentially, right?
Yeah, like can you get into a little bit about that? Because that was cool. Like the shot that you did where it's like you go underneath her.
Yeah.
And then she like unbuckles it, and then it was amazing.
Well, so they always had it in mind in the script for her to have this whip, because we haven't seen a Klingon with a type of whip before. And when you talk about the language of Klingon weapons, like what would it look like? So they weren't quite sure, but between props and costumes, they had this like thing that was part of her costume that went across. And that was like essentially what the whip would look like. But then there were a lot of meetings like, how would it unwrap? What would it look like? Can you unwrap it for real? And then they were like, if we built that, it would be way too heavy for the actress to move in to actually unwrap with our like current materials in this planet. So,
Yeah.
It was after many meetings and concepts, we decided it would be a VFX whip. And the actress would practice with a real whip to get the feeling of what it looked like. But essentially she was holding a handle and stunt zombies would react based on how she moved the handle. And then, when we were talking about how it unravels, my showrunners, the underlying thing was like, how can we make it as badass as Klingon as possible? And I'm like, well, classic film theory is the hero shot, really low angle hero shot. But for the whip to feature, then I'll get it even lower. And, we had to build a platform for her to stand on so the camera can go under. But like, you want it like extremely low, and we would get her all VFX like to fake the unwrap with a pull and then whip it down, and the whip would come right next to camera, maybe on camera. I forgot what they did, but that was the concept. So we drew the frame like with my storyboard artists, and then we talked with our stunt coordinator about how that would look and where her hand needs to go, and then we shot it, and then it came out
really good.
And I was like, yes, so it worked. Well, that's the scary thing about directors, though, because on a job, you're tasked with creating these visions. And my biggest fear is if something doesn't work. Because, like, for me, some of those moments, especially on a TV schedule, it's like you go all in, right? You do it. Like, you put everything in place that could make it work. And if you fail, you might not get asked back to direct again on that franchise.
Yeah. Well, you didn't fail, obviously, because you got Strange New Worlds, you got Picard season 3, you got Strange New Worlds again. Are you going to be back? And can you say it if you can or not? If you're going to be back?
I mean, I wrapped my season 4 Strange New Worlds.
Perfect.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago, and then I think Fish posted that they wrapped season 4 last week. So yeah, it's done, and it's just the VFX work. And as I said before, it's not going to come like anytime that soon, unless somehow they figured out how to get the VFX pipeline way faster. But I'm really excited about my episode for season 4, which you guys will see maybe when it comes out, however long that takes.
Yeah, hopefully next year and not 2 years from now.
Oh no, I don't think anyone has the appetite to wait another 2 years after especially since we finished shooting it. I mean, it's a really great season. I mean, season 3 is a really good season. My favorite episode in season 3 comes towards the back half of the season that none of the press have seen yet. So I'm like so excited for everyone to watch this episode, because I watched it. I'm like, it's so good. And then it's it's with a director.
It's not even yours?
No, it's not mine now.
Wow. Okay, that's impressive.
I think when you're working on a series, generally you're just rooting for it to do good. So when you see other episodes that are great, like as for me, I get excited, and this one episode in the back half made me very excited. So
man, so now we got something even more to look forward to, because we have a thing called Debrief, and we dive into it weekly, and every episode is just a lot of fun. We're going to talk about the one that just passed, which was a journey, an hour, adventure hour,
Subspace Adventure Hour.
And
Yeah.
honestly, like only Jonathan Frakes could have directed that episode out of our slate of directors, because
Nice.
there is so many winks and nods to old Hollywood. Like personally, me, I would have had to do a way too much research to make it genuine. And for him, it just like comes out of his blood. Like, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And he even does his own chair, a bit on his own chair, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jace.
Riker maneuver has become rather legendary. So, as a director, what is the secret of your success when dealing with large ensemble groups? Because earlier you mentioned working with the TNG cast all on one set, which, you know, love them, but they've got this notorious reputation as being goof offs. What is your secret to
Wrangle
getting distinct, truthful performances when screen time is spread so thin?
I think it's about building that trust that they know you'll capture them whenever they try something. And it's also about them seeing that you have a very clear goal in mind. I think that's what I've gotten the most feedback from actors is they're like, you really have a strong idea of what you want in the scene. And, you know, it might sound simple, but when you have all the elements there on the day, it can be kind of hard to find that thread that ties everything together and what exactly needs to be done in the scene and how can everyone work towards that goal.
Oh, wow. You have an opportunity to come back to Trek, as I'm sure you will. What genre would you be interested in directing? Because I know you've done kung fu stories, you've done a lot of, like, you did NCIS Los Angeles, you know, the cop drama. You've done a lot of different genres, mainly leading into sci-fi and horror. But what's something that you're like, you know what, I want to do this?
I mean, you know, I also grew up watching James Bonds. I would love to do like a spy like thriller.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there like specifically James Bond or any type of spy thriller? Because you
Anytime.
got like Argyle.
Well, you know, yeah, everyone would do their own version of that, whatever they get handed. But yeah, I think like still in the drama space, I feel like besides Shuttle to Camphoria, maybe a little bit on Kung Fu, I haven't really utilized my action background that much. Like I would have loved to do the John Wick spinoff Continental.
Oh yeah, that would have
You
been
know,
good.
I would have done, you know, what I obviously it's not probably a little different how I would have done it, but because of my background, I just feel like I haven't gotten to use it yet. And usually when you get hired here, everyone looks at what you recently did. And what I do, I think that I have a natural like affinity towards is character drama. So, you know, even when I did CW's Kung Fu, they gave me the family drama episode, not knowing that I knew like Kung Fu intimately.
Yeah, I was gonna say you trained in it. So
Yeah.
how long ago were you doing your martial art?
I did it. I started like a little bit in elementary school. Really did it in high school. I helped start the UC Davis Wushu Club with Kung Fu Club with 5 other people, and it was this like little 20-person club. And then when I went back like a decade ago, it was like 100-something people.
Wow.
So yeah, it was cool seeing them grow so much. And I only really stopped training once my son was born. So yeah.
So I guess it's time to pull him in, and then you guys both go back and it's the only necessary progress of things. Jace.
Well, and then also once you get older, your body starts feeling it. Like, you know, I definitely feel when I play with my son, my knees from all the jumping and jump kicks are like not what it used to be.
Yeah, I feel that from riding a sedentary bike. It's like Jason.
My body's in peak condition personally. I don't understand what you two are talking about. Tell us about the proposal.
Oh yeah, we did. I did a little short film. This was really fun. So right before the strikes, some mutual friends at 87 North, which is the stunt team that recently did the movie The Fall Guy and they've done Atomic Blonde and Bullet Train and Deadpool 2, and they started really getting their name known through John Wick 1. But through martial arts and like work, I've had a lot of mutual friends in different stunt groups. And this one, their trainer and his wife, Mike and Narita, contacted me and was like, hey, David, the owner of 87 North, David Leach, he tasked them with doing all the stunt people with training the next generation of stunt kids and kids like young adults, but like, giving them screen time as like using certain things to practice with. So they shot a little short film with knives and it looked really cool. And they're like, yeah, but our next short film, we want to do it with gun. We were tasked to do it with guns and we want to have a little bookend story with it. Like, would you want to direct it? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be fun. So they showed me like what they had in mind. We went to a couple rehearsals at their studio, and then I roped my team from For All Mankind to come and hang out for a night because it was like everyone was in LA because the strikes were just about to happen. And we just wrapped season 4 on For All Mankind. And we went and shot 15 hours, like stunt thing, fun, 15 people getting killed and a couple proposing at the end, kind of. So yeah, that was this little short film. And then we went to a few local festivals and some other festivals with it. And it became this really fun thing. But for me, it was really about getting to work with that team because, when you get to work with one of the best teams in entertainment for what they do, you just you take any opportunity to go and do it. So yeah, that's how that short came around. And now we're trying to develop it into a feature, which would be amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But like a caveat, like when anyone you hear in Hollywood says we're going to develop something, that can mean like it'll happen in like next year or 10 years. You just we're working on it.
So like, don't hold your breath.
Yeah, exactly. Like until you see like a full deadline article or something saying like, oh, it is like get it going into pre-production or something, it doesn't really mean anything. People would develop things all the time and it can go nowhere or it can go somewhere really fast. But
I develop things all the time too.
He does. He develops a lot on his channel. It's wild.
I was just saying that I say I'm going to do a lot of things, but nothing really happens with them.
So they had the double-edged sword of that. Are there any projects that you're in negotiations with, aside from Star Trek, that you're excited about, or can you not say NDA problems?
I mean, I'm developing a couple movies.
Ooh, so you're gonna do full-length features? Like,
yeah, we'll see. Again,
wow.
I think that's kind of the natural progression, right? Like you do a couple like TV, then you do some streaming TV, then maybe some features, then back to TV. I mean, it wasn't that way, so I'm very thankful for our current like media climate because before it was like you have TV directors and you have movie directors.
Yeah.
But now like so many movie directors do like episodes of Star Trek and stuff. So it's kind of like mixed in with a lot of what we watch. But at the same time, the current climate after the strikes is there's a lot less jobs. And I'm sure you guys have read or heard about it. So very thankful to be working and to have an upcoming job. But again, it's one of those things where now everyone's looking and everyone's competing for the same job. And I think the official line is there's 30% less jobs than before.
Wow.
So yeah, just imagine everyone working and then now 30% more competition. Like,
is that because of all the different studio buyouts? Is that also
I think it's just honestly the climate of, we for 5 years, 5 to 6 years, you had these streaming giants like throwing everything into production and just making a ton of content. At some point that was going to end. And so they chose for the strikes really to be the catalyst for it to end. And it felt as like it was a sudden thing because, strikes lasted 8 months and they were just like, okay, we're not going to greenlight like most of these things anymore. So it feels sudden, I think, to the industry, but it's been coming. Like you can kind of tell, like you're not going to just pump money into endless series forever and movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got Starfleet Academy coming out. You've got the untalked about recently Tawny Newsome Star Trek show coming out, do you think you could get into the comedy Trek?
Well, it's funny because I've been asked on Stranger Worlds if comedy ever interests me, and it doesn't really.
Oh, really? Wow.
Like I'll do
Hey, man.
comedy. I'll do like dramedies. I love dramedies.
Mhm.
Like I would love to do something like The Bear. But in terms of like straight comedies, like how if I think Tawny's doing like a single camera or sitcom type thing, that's probably not for me. I mean, there's so many other good directors that are really great at comedy. I mean, even our own like Jordan Canning, she's
Mhm.
like the comedy queen of Stranger Worlds because she's so good at it. And I don't feel the itch or the need to do that space. But you know, I could be doing another Star Trek spinoff, not the Tawny Newsome one. We'll see.
Oh. So much mystery you're talking to you. This is great. I love it. It's
But
stay
also, like,
tuned.
you know, that being said, Skydance and then they just had the deal, so we really don't know after
Yeah,
end of
that's
this
true.
year. Really, like, will there be more Star Trek on Paramount Plus?
Is it going to even be called Paramount Plus? It could be.
This is true.
Yeah, it could be
So,
Skydance Plus, or who knows what's going to happen.
but at
Jason.
least you know they finally finished that deal, so it's going through. But now I
Yeah,
think it's going to take a couple months for everyone to really see where things land.
yeah. Jace, do you have another question?
Oh, yeah, I think we could probably wrap this up with our blanket ending question, and that is, if somebody dropped a time machine in your lap and gave you the ability to go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh,
So, you know, this type of question, I feel like because I've gotten to where I am now that I'm very happy that I've done what I've done, I would probably just like observe myself with nostalgia and not approach it myself.
I
Because
would
then
leave
you have the
me
butterfly
alone.
effect, right? Like, what if you say one thing and suddenly your whole life changed? What if my kids aren't my kids anymore? What if I don't have kids? Like, you know, you have at a certain point in life, there's so much like you've built and that you've grown towards. And I just can't imagine like not having my kids, not directing on some of these things. Like, I would just not say anything.
Great
That's
Scott.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. It is like I almost feel like you're approaching that question from the aspect of Star Trek, where it's like, oh yeah, well, when they go back in time, that on episode when she went back in time and she fell in love with Kirk, and then Kirk with
Temporal
somebody
prime
else.
directive. Don't
Yeah,
break the temporal prime
I don't
directive.
want to break that temporal prime directive. That was awesome. Dan, thank you so much for joining us in the Captain's Quadrant. This has been a great hour of conversation with you. We've learned so much, and we've got so much the behind the scenes goodies in this. We really appreciate your time, and we wish the best for you, and we can't wait to see all these things that you've given us little nuggets of come to fruition in the next couple of probably years, the way things are in Hollywood. But dude, best of luck to you, and we can't wait to see you go higher and further amongst the stars.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. It was a great talk.
Absolutely. Thank you.